Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
This season of Negative Camber the Motorsport Show is proudly brought to you by True Steel Frames, Move Yourself Trailer Hire, Red Mill Bakery, Pro Karts Race Centre Paraka, Barbarino, TD Racing, T4, Patrizzi Course, IKD, DR Karts Australia and Radio Italia 1.
Italia 1 87.6.
It's lights out and away we go. Russell does get away well, as does Max Verstappen, and Valtteri Bottas has got his teammate right alongside him already.
Welcome to Negative Camber.
No!
If it's motorsport you want, then this is the place to be. All of the latest results, analysis and interviews.
And a great start for car number 11. D'Alberto's got away beautifully at the start of the great race.
Proudly sponsored by True Steel Frames, a leading supply, service and manufacturer of steel frames and roof trusses.
Down the inside, Hamilton sees him coming. It's a late lunch by Verstappen, who takes the lead of the race.
Right now on Radio Italia Uno 87.6. And now it's time to introduce your hosts, Jamie Lemure and Lee Harrison.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Negative Camber the Motorsport Show, proudly brought to you by True Steel Frames. Hope everyone is enjoying their, it was a very, very wet weekend and quite cold too. So lots of motor racing that happened over the course of the weekend and many people reporting at how cold it was. And speaking of someone that's got ice in his veins, I welcome to the studio this evening my co-driver in this caper of ours, Mr. Lee Harrison. Good evening, my friend.
Good evening. I remembered who I was this week.
Well, you know what? Considering, as I said off air, the amount of intros I've given you, it does not surprise me that you would have an identity crisis.
Yeah, no.
So
you keep me on my toes, that's for sure.
I try to, but not as much as your darling chief of hype.
Yes, absolutely. My wife, the chief of hype.
The chief of hype. Exciting tonight. We've got our first Bathurst 1000 winner on the show. I'm very, very excited about Nick Percat joining us in about 15 minutes' time, apparently.
Yeah, looking forward to that chat. Lots of history there with Percat and growing up racing against him for many years, actually, in karting. Was a good competitor on the track and even more off the track. And yeah, glad to have our first Bathurst 1000 winner on the air tonight, and hopefully he's the first of many.
Potentially. And, you know, speaking of wins, Lee, Ferrari won Le Mans. We won Le Mans, man.
Yeah.
We won it. We did it. And I called it too, 4 hours before the race ended. And then to double it off, we had Pecco winning in Mugello. What a time to be an Italian man. Yes.
This is the most excitement that I've ever actually think you've produced in a Negative Camber episode. So I think you should I think you should just carry this all the way through tonight's episode, because that's the sort of enthusiasm and stuff that we need from you. But I mean, being an Italian, it's been a long time since you've had reason to celebrate.
Well, we're not going to win a Formula One race this year. That's fact.
Well, why don't they take all of the strategists and all of the car designers and engineers from the WEC team and put them in the Ferrari Formula One team?
Oh man, that pass by the Ferrari for the Toyota during the race, where he's gone on the outside of the exit of the second Mulsanne chicane.
Yeah,
amazing. And then Toyota just shot themselves in the foot, because there was probably, until there was maybe a half an hour left in the race, there was probably 10, 13 seconds in it.
Yeah, it could have either gone both ways. Like, I messaged you a lot throughout that weekend saying that both teams really, they wanted to shoot themselves in the foot. You know, there was enough times in the pit stops where that hypercar for Ferrari didn't want to restart because they kept flipping the mechanics button off and not finding it to restart it, and then spin outs and all sorts of stuff. And then Toyota they had their problems as well, spins and all sorts of stuff into the final hour of the race. So look, you can say what you want, but I think that watching that is 24 hours of excitement that someone should watch start to finish at least once in their life, because the fact that race for 24 hours long still comes down to the last half an hour of its entirety before deciding the winner. That's a true testament. Like, you have to be on it the whole 24 hours.
Tell you what, if Hendrick Motorsport didn't make an absolute mozza in social media posts and everything else with Garage 56, man. But to see the video footage, imagine being on Mulsanne, hearing that NASCAR just whiz past you, however, 200, 300 times or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it finished the race too, which is even more amazing.
Finished the race, and if not for its own problem as well, it probably would have been up there in the GTM field. I think it surprised a lot of people at exactly how fast it was going to be, and maybe it's time to send a supercar over there.
Possibly.
Once they could maybe not afford one because they seem to keep burning down.
Oh, yeah, well, hasn't that opened up a can of worms with everything that's going on with Gen 3 at the moment? So, yeah, I remember, and, we'll touch on it with Nick later in the interview, but I do remember when I sat down with Charlie Barlow at the beginning of the season and said that this year was going to be more about teething troubles. I don't think either of us would have probably forecasted the level of controversy and then, is it an imbalance though? Right? Is there actually? I mean, there probably would be if you spoke to the Ford camp.
Yeah, look,
there's been times when they've shot themselves in the foot too.
Yeah, the trigger has been set, and it's been done now. Supercars have launched a Parity review. It is done on a complex analysis of lap times. That is understood to cut out outliers such as the fastest and slowest car from each brand. So it has to be triggered in at least 5 of 8 races or 5 consecutive races, and that means that the review is unavoidable. So after the last race in Darwin, Supercars have come out and confirmed that a parity review has been triggered in accordance with the regulations, and it has identified and is going to identify and evaluate any imbalances among the competing models. So we will watch very, very closely as to what comes out of Supercars in the next few weeks, and hopefully before their next round at Townsville. But yeah, it'll be interesting to hear Nick's thoughts on that as well, and see what some of their struggles have been.
Well, I mean, you look at the World Endurance Championship and what they've done with the hypercar, and you've got, 5, 6, 7 completely diverse brands, completely different engineering thought processes.
Yeah.
And yet they've rolled out a balance of performance, which is what they do with GT3. And the organisers for the World Endurance Championship absolutely nailed it at Le Mans.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Irrespective of the fact that it was Team Red, there were multiple people that were commenting at the fact that balance of performance actually worked.
Yeah, because you guys as Ferrari fanatics just got on the good end of the result. But if you look at the lap times throughout the week, the lap times and the race pace was so close it wasn't even funny. And the same thing happened with any one of those cars. The Cadillac could have won it as well had it not been involved in a first lap incident. So the Porsches were fast, the Peugeots were fast, every car was fast. And it can go even further than that, and not so much be a balance of performance, but it could be a balance of success. So, like British touring cars do, just add some weight to cars that have won races. If you won a race or finished on the podium in the round preceding, you get some success ballast added to your car for the next one. And it just helps bring all of those teams a little bit closer and gives everyone a bit of a chance to fight, makes the championship interesting for all of us motorsport enthusiasts to watch, and keeps the battles close on track.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. But you know what Le Mans actually did prove? 2 things. My crystal ball is better than yours in 2023. All right? It's polished, it's refined, it works, much like other things. But, and then Italian ingenuity, right now, world's best. We beat the Germans, we beat the Americans, we beat the Japanese. And for this week only.
Yeah.
But even in motorcycles, right now, pristine. Right now, I have the Dolmio grin.
You do have that. You're wearing it with a very, very good smile. You've done well on the bikes and the WEC. Like Ferrari have still struggled up until WEC, but hopefully, fingers crossed, then the Formula One team can get on top of it, because we know that's what you're looking for the most.
Of course, but I mean, with the Ferrari endurance program, that was only its 5th race.
Yeah,
really. So and. It looks like they were going to be in it for the long haul, but then to see all that celebration in Maranello, like the cars going through the streets, through the factory. I mean, I was getting messages left, right, and centre all week.
People lining the streets it was like a English Premier League victory dance or celebration. So, yeah, the Italian public really got behind it, and I think, like you said, if they weren't in it for the long haul, they are now, because you can't just roll out and win Le Mans and then just pack it all up and put it in the trailer.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you could, but it would be a lot of money invested for.
They got their win. They got their result, but now they've got to come out and back it up.
Yeah,
they got to do it again, win it next year. And yeah, it would have been so good. I was listening to a podcast with Fizzy, and he's been part of the program for GT for so long. It would have been so good to have him as part of that hypercar squad and given him a win at Le Mans in the overall standings as well. That would have been such a good way to top him off. But yeah, unfortunately, not for Fizzy.
No, not at all. But in the Ferrari world, that's the biggest win that the marque has had since Kimi won the world title.
Yeah.
So that shows you...
When was that 2007 or something?
07.
Yeah. So
that gives
16 years.
That's a little snapshot of what could potentially happen if a driver wearing red won the world championship.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much the constructors. I mean, that's great because they've won more since 07. But the driver...
Yeah. He'll be godlike status in Italy. If the next driver to win a Ferrari Formula One world title, or a Formula One world title for Ferrari, will be godlike status.
I have it on good authority that Madame Thayer was looking at some pictures of Mr. Giovinazzi during the week. She's a bit putsy now for Giovinazzi.
Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
She's shifted from Toto.
But she shifted from Toto. She then went to George Russell. She then went to Charles Leclerc. Now she's gone to Giovinazzi. And she's obviously There's a few chess pieces going here with the chief of hype.
Yeah, well, look... I'm going to leave that one there because there's a little bit of a running joke at home as well.
Oh,
it's probably not one to bring onto the radio.
No, probably not.
But look, she can have her dream boats in the motorsport world, and hopefully we can make it reality one day for her to go and meet all of her dream boats, and we'll see how confident she is then, or if she cowers in her little boots and sits behind us.
See this bottle of Fuji water? That would be shades just like literally turned to water.
Yeah, she'll be perspiring that much it'd fill that bottle up.
Yeah, exactly. Now you were at the South Australian Hire Kart Championship today at Malala.
I was.
You were filling in for me, really. You were there sort of in spirit for me.
Look, I have not been out to Malala since they have run a hire kart business out there, so I thought it would be wise of me to go and scope out the competition.
Doing your chief executive officer duties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I just went out there to really scope it out and just see how it was all run, see what and if there was anything I could learn to take back to pro karts. It was good, some good racing.
You were telling me a little bit about the lights that in that final heat. Probably some of the best racing you'd seen ever.
Oh, definitely in that series. Definitely in any of the Ferrari Club branded hire kart challenges. Those guys, the top four, Simon, Harrison, Mark and Tom Kilgariff, they were going at it hammer and tongs for probably the last 5 laps of the race, but the last 2 laps in particular, they were I think definitely 3 wide, potentially 4 wide coming onto the straight. And then when it narrowed up, they all sort of gave each other space to funnel back in to be 3 wide. You weren't in the same position for 2 corners, and it was just and not one person ended up off the track. There was just room given on all quarters. It was, just absolutely fantastic to watch.
It's good. It's how it should be.
Absolutely.
That's what we've tried to encourage, is racing of that sort of calibre and that quality.
Yeah.
So, yes, long may it continue. Let's hope.
Look, hopefully, there was lots of talk about how good that racing was, so hopefully some people have let it sink in that that's what makes good racing. We all learn from it, and the next round at Jeps Cross is much the same. Yeah,
and I won't even be at the round at Jeps Cross either. I'll be in Sydney.
Not good enough.
No, well, mate, I'll
have to go there and fill in.
Black tie Met Gala theme for Intuit QuickBooks for the end of financial year. I've already got my tuxedo ordered.
Yeah, fair enough.
Double O negative, they call me now.
That's an accountant's party. It can't be that fun.
Oh, don't worry. They let their hair down at Intuit. Don't you worry about that.
No, I've seen them. I've witnessed them firsthand.
Yeah, exactly.
I got the last accountant's party that I went to, ended up getting a tattoo.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
But maybe you can tell me off air after the break. So we're going to head off, and when we come back, Nick Percat.
You're listening to Negative Camber, sponsored by True Steel Frames, providing steel frames and roof trusses for any size projects. TrueSteelFrames.com.au.
Welcome back to Negative Camber, the Motorsport Show, proudly brought to you by True Steel Frames. Hope you're enjoying the show so far, and I'm really excited, a little bit nervously actually. Really excited though, because for the show it's a landmark, because we've got our first Bathurst 1000 winner on the show, but this man has a CV that many drivers actually should aspire to. So, a little bit of a roll call. 2011 Bathurst 1000 winner at his first attempt, and the first rookie winner in 30 years at that point in time in the race. 2016 Adelaide 500 winner. 2009 Australian Formula 4 champion, second in the 2013 Porsche Carrera Cup, setting records for pole positions and fastest laps in that season, third in 2014 in the 2016 Bathurst 1000, and fourth in the 2010 and 2012 Dunlop Series. Nick Percat, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, how are you?
Not too bad, how are you?
I'm good, just laying around on the couch after being bashed up by a go-kart all day.
Todd Road takes it out of you still, hey?
Yeah, you think after all these years of driving around it, but it still manages to bash your ribs and stuff. So it's good.
It sounds like it's really key to sort of part of your training routine and to keep your reflexes sharp. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I just love it, to be honest. But yeah, I do it just so. Yeah, obviously we don't get to test in a supercar besides 3 times a year, so if when there's a weekend off I can be driving something, I'll be doing that in the go-kart. But the thing I love about it is obviously I'm obviously racing in seniors, but the age group, I think there's 16 that can get into seniors, so I'll be racing at some kids basically who they all watch people like Max Verstappen and all those guys, and do a lot of like sim racing and stuff. So they have different ideas of their racecraft. So I actually love racing them because they throw new moves on you. You always learn something from them. So yeah, I'm just trying to see what the next kind of generation of race car drivers up to. So it's quite fun.
Do you find that because of your profile that a lot of the drivers, and in particular the youth, approach you for tips and feedback on their driving as well?
Yeah, occasionally, especially the juniors. I have one young kid I help quite a lot, young Bradley, and he's he runs in like top level for juniors, and he's always asking what he can do better. But yeah, even when we come in on the in-grid, sometimes there'll be questions asked from other drivers about racecraft and stuff like that, because it is rare in karting that your kart comes in without tyre marks on it, but it's actually even rarer that mine has a single mark on it, even racing at national level. So I think it's more the dads going, can you find out how to stop damaging everything? So yeah, it is good fun, but it's, I like kind of trying to pass on a little bit of knowledge if someone wants to ask, but just love doing it.
Sure. What is it about karting that you love? I mean, and I asked this question because it reminds me of the movie, the doco Senna, where they asked him what his favourite form of motorsport was right at the end of the movie, and you're kind of expecting him to say Formula One, and he goes back to karting. And his answer was just fascinating, in terms of being grassroots and its purity of it. Is that the same for you, or do you have other reasons for that?
100% how pure it is. Obviously, the higher you get in motorsport in Australia, Europe, or the US, there's a lot of influence in the team. The way the cars run kind of influences the results you get on track as an individual, where in karting it's, I can jump in my X30 package, and if that's the controlled engine in the class I'm running, everyone has the same engine. If I think, whatever chassis is the best, you go out and buy that because you think that's the best available on the market, and you go race it. So it's a lot easier to give yourself the best opportunity to get good results. I think that's why I love it, but also I love the camaraderie and the family aspect of it. Everyone still goes away with their mum and dad to try and win go-kart races, and the community in karting is very unique and it's very cool because everyone's so supportive of each other, and yeah, it's just like one big travelling family going around to all these different tracks and racing each other. And I think, I look back at all the times we were away racing or karting in Adelaide, and with Dad there, and it's not really any other sport does that, because you get the on track, but then also during the week or after work with your dad, you'd be in the shed tinkering on the go-kart, so it's more bonding with your family and stuff like that. So, yeah, I like it on many different levels.
And do you think that, like, you know, all of your main sort of friendships come from the karting world? Like, I think back when I was at school, and I don't really talk to anyone that I went to school with, but all of my friends that I hang around with now are all from karting. Are you much the same?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, I can't even remember who I went to school with, which is bad. But, yeah, like, I'm still kicking around with the same guys that, I raced. So it's really cool. And then, you know, today we're all out at Todd Road doing a club day. You know, we're early 30s and been doing it now since we were, somewhere from 7 years old. And we still get the same kick out of it. So it is pretty unique and very fun.
Let's wind the clock back a little bit on two fronts. So I guess the first would be, you know, given the fact you've had such a strong history with Holden the brand, but you've also got strong family ties to on the manufacturing side as well. Can you explain the family history behind that?
Yeah, so basically my dad, granddad and great-granddad all worked at Elizabeth at the Holden plant, you know, physically building the cars and the parts and putting them together. Obviously before there was robots doing a lot of it. So yeah, it goes back a long, long way. In the Percat name of, you know, people working for Holden, which is, yeah, it's pretty crazy to think. So then last year when we had the Holden send-off livery, we actually did the photos at the Elizabeth site, and Dad and Granddad came, and they were telling stories about how it used to all work and what they used to get up to and what happened there. So it's pretty surreal to think how long we've been associated with the Holden brand.
Yeah, and I guess I've heard you in interviews that you've given, say, through Supercars broadcast and stuff like that, how much last year's 1-2 meant to you. Even though you didn't win, the fact that you had a ripping drive and you came from 20th to finish second, just the history behind that kind of really tied it all in for you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, obviously the history of the Holden brand with my family and I guess early career, you know, getting me through karting, back into karting, Formula Ford, to where I am today. And then I used to, you know, watch obviously all the supercar races and Bathurst and stuff, and I would always dream of being in a position where you're in a team where you're winning the race. It's a 1-2, and it has that, like, the helicopter over the top following the cars, like real old school. And then that's kind of unfold with in Adelaide with WAU with a send off for Holden. Yeah, pretty crazy. And yeah, I think especially the history of our team with HRT, everything they've done for me with the Walkinshaw family, and then to get a 1-2 with Chaz was very, very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. What got you into motorsport? Was it a person? Was it being influenced or inspired by what you saw on TV or at the track?
It was Dad. He's a mechanic. He was also he did some drag racing back when he was younger, and he was just a petrol head. Then he was doing some karting as well when I came along, and I first had a crack at it, and when I was quite young, I think I was 6 or 7, and actually kind of didn't gel with me first off, and I ended up actually playing some footy at school and stuff, then realised I was actually horrendous at that. So quickly bailed that, and I think, there was probably a year there where I didn't drive the car, I just sat in the shed. Then one day, Dad remembers it pretty fondly, where he came home from work, and then I mustered up the courage to ask if we could go out in the go-kart on the weekend, and then he said that was the best thing he'd ever heard, and we didn't really look back from there.
Yeah. How did you, I suppose, in your karting career, you were recognised by TWR, and how did that whole opportunity come up, and, what was the process behind signing you and becoming part of their, I suppose, development program?
Yeah, so it's, like in karting, we had a fair crack, but, we weren't interstate every weekend. I only did 2 national championships in my whole karting career. I only did 1 Vicky Open, which was huge to go to back in the day. So we kept it fairly to Adelaide, but obviously Dad did everything he could with the equipment he gave me, so I'd always had good stuff. But it was, it's the back end of karting. One of our family friends, crazy enough, had a connection to the guy who supplied all the merchandise and stuff like that to the Holden racing team.
Oh, wow.
So then, I think without knowing, our friend was kind of mentioned us, and then we got into Aussie racing cars, and basically that year, apparently, every time the Aussie racing cars was on, my name was spoken out quite a lot because we were going quite well, and it got to the point at the Gold Coast, and Tom Walkinshaw was there, and he was in the garage, and he just kept hearing Percat, Percat, Percat over the PA because I started 40-something on the grid and won it in the wet by like 6 seconds at the Gold Coast. And the very next morning, I had a phone call from the guy called Craig Wilson, who ran the Holden racing team here for Tom Walkinshaw, saying, "Would love to meet you at the track. If you could come in, that'd be great." And the crazy thing was that, at the end of the Saturday night was our race, and we didn't have budget to do anything more. We didn't think we'd be racing the following year, and I was just happy to go race some go-karts and probably work at Dad's workshop. And then, had this call in the morning, and I went into Dad's room in the hotel and said, "Someone by the name of Craig Wilson just called me from TWR," and Dad said, "Mate, it's a prank call. Like, we ain't going to the track. We're meant to fly out today because the Aussie racing cars are done." We went in, and here we are. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So Tom was in that meeting as well, or was it just you and Craig at that point?
I met Tom, and then it was just Craig in the actual meeting, doing all the hard work.
Yeah.
Or both finding out where I was at and getting all the information, and then from then on, my first contract was signed by Tom and actually John Kelly as well when he was at the Walkinshaw team. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I had the good fortune of meeting Tom Walkinshaw in the pits for the 1999 Adelaide 500, and
wow.
And I've found the photo of it recently when I was just going through some archive photos and stuff. And he had an aura. Like, I was starstruck. Because, I mean, this is Tom, 1985 Jaguar XJS Tom, this.
Yeah.
And so to meet him, just 5 minutes was amazing. I mean, I can't imagine what it would have been like for yourself to be standing there and you're negotiating a contract to drive for him. Like, that would have been absolutely amazing.
Yep, and very, very scary. Because, the deal happened really, really quick, and without that, it was there was nothing was ever transpired. Like the last race I did in the Aussie racing car, because it was raining. Dad handed me a rag and was like, "Just wipe the window so you can see and have a bit of fun." Like it's your last race in the car, and then to have that unfold, and then we went to Formula Ford, and I think at round one, it was at the Adelaide 500. I qualified second in my first ever national Formula Ford race, and we did limited testing, like a quarter of what the rest of the field did. And I went over to HRT pits and thought Tom would be happy with the result, and all he said was, "Why weren't you on pole?" Okay, well, that's the standard, and that was actually the standard on my junior contract. If you weren't winning, the contract got torn up. So that was how it worked.
Wow, that's extraordinary pressure. I was actually leading into Formula Ford. I mean, tell us about your time in Formula Ford. I mean, I think it was that season you actually broke Steve Richards' long-held record for either wins or poles, or both.
Both, I think it was.
Yeah. So clearly you delivered. But can you expand on that time, but also, the importance of the category and why, it's really kind of largely disappeared from the mainstream coverage of motorsport events?
Yeah, so I kind of got a little bit lenient on me. For my first year, I was racing a Spectrum, and it didn't quite suit my driving style, and we weren't that happy in that car. It was fast. So we jumped ship in my first year to Team BRM in Adelaide, and actually got a race win in Tassie, which kept the contract alive for the following year. And then, I jumped over to Sonic Motor Racing, where all the champions have come through, Will Davo, Wing Cup, everyone driven at Sonic, and it was basically go there, and obviously we had confidence that I was decent, obviously with got a contract with the Holden Racing team, but Nick Ritter has a way of knowing which kids are kind of special or very, very good, and we did the first test day, and he just said, no, I think we should definitely have a crack at this. And from then on, I actually worked at Sonic to reduce the budget and get to know that. Yeah, I wanted to understand the car more because I'm quite hands-on. So I actually worked at Sonic for 5 odd years, preparing Formula Fords and helping run that program. And I guess the first year with them, they could see my speed in 2008, but it was literally win or bin. Like I won or crashed. That's what happened. And I ended up second that year. And the next year, they were like, look, if you don't win it this year, that's over. But we need to see things change and, the way you go about it. You can't be crashing every weekend. Mm-hmm. So then they set me up with a sports psych who worked with HRT and put some processes in place to not kind of get red mist and jam it up the inside and take a corner off it. And that was the year where we literally just absolutely dominated everything. It was, pretty crazy. Even though it was races back end of the year because Mitch Evans was my teammate and a guy called Jeff Urain, and we were always trying to get Nick Ritter to quit smoking. And the bet was always, if you come 1, 2, 3, I'll quit. So at Queensland Raceway, I had so much speed in hand, I would literally roll off in the first few laps and back to field up so Mitch and Jeff could get away, and then I'd press on to make sure we had a 1, 2, 3 like it was just kind of a piss take. Because I had so much speed and confidence in that car that, I could pull 3-4 tenths out whenever I wanted it. So it's crazy, and still a bit sad now that it's not quite what it was. The fields are rebuilding. I think Motorsport Australia, they tried the F4 pass without even going into detail. Obviously, it didn't work. And thankfully, not all the Formula 4 teams closed up shop. They kept racing like Vic State Series, New South Wales State Series, and all that. And now every time I talk to the guys at Sonic, it's getting good momentum back. They're on the bill at Tasmania with us. It was. I think it's very important for Australia to have that category there because it just teaches so much, just the mechanical side of driving a race car. How to race with a H-pack and gearbox without destroying gear ratios and dog rings, and how to set up a car mechanically, how to drive the car with mechanical grip only. There's so much that goes into it, which is why it's extremely important, which is why I'm so passionate about Formula Ford. And I guess it looks like, hopefully it keeps building this momentum and, it continues to pull drivers from it. We have a driver who's in the WAU Academy, Matt Hillier. I used to race him in karts a couple of years ago, and I just said to his old man, I think he's pretty good, but here's Nick Ritter's number at Sonic. Call him and do a test day, and he'll tell you. And, now he's winning the national championship, so it's still a very good pathway to get to Supercars.
And you said that you got hooked up with the motorsport psych or the sports psych, and he gave you some tips on what to use to control that red mist. What sorts of things were you focusing on at that time?
Being younger then, all I had in life was just racing cars as fast as I could. So he literally made me put a sticker on my steering wheel that said, "Don't be a bandit." And that was just like a reminder when I was out there to don't do something stupid. But then he actually just made me more accountable. Obviously, you're accountable with the team, but then I would see him on Monday or Tuesday morning after every single race meeting or test day, and we would have set out goals for that weekend, and he would go through them and get to a point where he would question, like, why have you not done what you said you were going to do? And it just made you a lot more accountable, and, we put little things in place to, focus in the car. And for me, one thing was always just a corner by corner focus. I don't really worry about the whole. It's not, I guess, about the race. It's just, I'm coming into turn one. I brake here. I use that bit of curb, and then I'm on the throttle here. Like, that's kind of what I was doing back then. It was just kind of programming me just to do that, and then I kind of did that. It kind of worked out well. Yeah. So it was very, very simple back then.
Were there some fundamentals that you take from that you still apply to your mental preparation even to this day?
Yeah, 100%. So the guy I used, a guy called Anthony Clarica, he's had Wing Cup with him when Wing Cup won his championships. Tanda, Rick Kelly, or actually all the Walkinshaw drivers will Davo for a long time. So now people think it's just cute that I have a photo of Nelson in the race car, like my dog. So now it's more like if shit... Oh, sorry.
No, you're right. You're all good, man. Yeah.
I literally just look at the dash and there's a photo of him and it kind of like mellows me real quick just to make sure you don't do anything stupid.
It's almost like
which probably should have done a Darwin last week racing Reynolds when I turned him around, but yeah, so there's still things in place and I still use the corner by corner thing and stuff like that. Probably not quite to the same extent I was, but it's still in the back of my mind. If there's if the car has a certain balance and you have to drive 2 corners differently to the other 12, that's when I use it then.
Yeah. Let's have a look at 2011 in a little bit more detail. So we're talking Bathurst 1000. And, prior to that, what were the events that led you to getting the seat with Garth? Because that was, Garth back then, for our listeners that don't really know, don't know too much of the history, Garth in Holden Racing Team land was the man after Mark Scaife.
Yeah.
So to get that opportunity, can you talk us through it?
Yeah, it is pretty crazy when you really look back at it. I'd done 1 year of Super 2 in 2010 with like a budget of an oily rag. We were the only car in the field with a H pattern, really low budget, older car, and I somehow was on the podium most weekends and stuff like that, and obviously under the Walkinshaw stable still. And then at the end of that year, we actually ran out of budget mid-year, and so basically the deal was that Walkinshaw supplied the engine to the team that I drove for to reduce the budget, but the rest we had to find. And it got to a point where we're done. Like, we can't find enough. You're still looking for 400 grand to try and race this thing. And then, they threw me in one of their VEs at Homebush back when we raced there. And, I kind of took off. And then, not really sure if that was a key point. But then, they decided to run that car in-house with, at the Holden Racing Team. And there was no budget requirement. It was just race it. And then, I rocked up at Adelaide with it. Told round won. And then I got told the following week that I'll be with Garth. So, wow. I don't know if the VE part was a bit of a, see if he's going to sink or swim. And then from then it was like, you're in with Garth. We're telling you early so you can be prepared. And the first thing we did was set up the ergonomics of my car exactly the same as his, but same insert, same steering wheel position, pedal position, master cylinders. The whole show was exactly the same in my Super 2 car. We actually set it up as close as we could. Didn't have quite the same components, but we tried to get a similar balance in the car. So when I got to Bathurst, it wasn't a wild shock driving his, but it was still so intimidating. Even testing at Winton, I remember just shitting myself. Just in the red car, and you drive around like, I'm not pushing, I don't want to go off, but they're like, well, you kind of need to show us if you can actually go fast. And you're like, okay. So, absolutely crazy, that whole lead in, and then, obviously on the day, getting the win. But I'd had a good Super 2 run there the same weekend, and then I was in with Garth, and I actually never forget the first stint because Garth started, and then I jumped in, and we're in a good spot early in the day, straight away, and I thought, all right, I'll just don't do anything stupid in the first stint, just do what you need to do. And they came on the radio on the 4th lap, and they're like, I wasn't going slow, but I was a little bit away from what they wanted, and they're like, hey mate, all good, but if you can just go faster, just do it. And I'm like, oh my God, I just wanted to have the first stint, calm, but at that point, it's even crazy when I look back at it. It was Mark Scaife as a co-driver in a Vodafone car, and Andrew Thompson in the other one. And I was literally racing Scaife all day as a co-driver. And at one point I raced Lounsey. When they told me to go faster, it made a bit of sense when you look back on it. And crazy to think that my first ever Bathurst 1000, it's not only did we win it, but the people I raced all day to make sure, or help Garth and the team was actually, Craig Lowndes and Mark Case.
Yeah, not a bad dream, really. It's when you think about it, was your reality. But I guess, what were the emotions like heading out on your first practice session, even on the Thursday? They would have bolted a set of used rubber. You're out there, you roll out, going up Mountain Straight for the first time. That would have been like euphoria.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then obviously the fan base of that team, the crowd would go nuts on the first flyer past. But every time the HRT car came past. And the other part of it was the other co-driver in the other car alongside James Courtney was Greg Murphy. So that was my yardstick. I'm like, I don't know if this seems fair, but actually first year was Cameron Conville, next year it was Greg Murphy. But so I was up against it, but the emotions were high all weekend. I think the good thing was I had the Super 2 car there to kind of do my thing and relax a bit in those races. And then, I'll never forget, obviously, during the race, the emotion during that. And then when I realised that we were in a spot to win it, I think there's footage of me standing there and Dad's actually next to me, but I'm like white as a ghost because I'm watching the timing monitors. I can see Craig Lowndes catching us. Garth had that tiny little mistake and it cost us a bit of time. It was like pretty surreal. And then, I remember we actually missed half the team dinner. So obviously we won, and then you have all the media stuff and everything that goes with it. And finally got back to the accommodation, and it was basically just have a shower and then we're going to meet straight away for team dinner. We obviously unbelievable. And I walked in the hotel room and sat on the end of the bed and passed out asleep. So missed half the dinner, but got there in the end. But I guess, that probably shows the toll it takes that week, and especially the circumstances.
Going back to like those last moments, you're standing there next to your dad. What's going through your head? Is it like, what laps could I have done something different? Where did I lose any more time that we could have made this a little bit more comfortable? Are you thinking about that, or are you just doing everything you can to wheel Garth on to get this across the line?
I think it was just will him on. One thing I did know, because I trained with Garth every day. I spent nearly every day with the guy. I knew his strengths as a racing car driver, so I knew Craig would have to do something pretty big to get through him. But it was more just, wheeling him on. I knew how much speed Lowndes he had, and Dad just a nervous running commentary next to me, I'm pretty sure, from memory. But I haven't, even watching it back, I think, wow, I don't actually remember half of this stuff happening. So, I guess in hindsight, drilling it into the fence at turn 2 probably didn't help us, but it survived.
That was lucky. That was close, man. See, for me, and I'll be open, Mark Scaife was like my idol. Was.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I was, but I still loved HRT because of that whole Scaife era too. So I'm watching TV. I've got HRT just grazing the wall out, coming out of the exit turn 2, and I've got, my goat sitting there in the driver's seat thinking, that's it, we've done it, we've won. He's written the car off.
Yeah.
But then...
That's where I was...
Yeah.
I was too kind. I just wanted to let Lowndes through and follow him and learn, but I just didn't even think about the marbles.
Yep.
The only smart thing I did there was square up the wheel and hit it square.
Mate, that would have been the best impact to turn 2 you've ever had in your life, because it ended up resulting in still getting through and winning. So that's not a bad. But being the winner, once you are a race winner, what impact does such a result have on you as a driver, or even on your career?
It obviously probably cemented my career for the short term. And obviously have crazy, confidence and self-belief that you deserve to be there against those guys. And I guess there's a lot more that goes to it, because obviously the teams have all the data and all the reports, and they literally can compare you to anyone on the grid. And it wasn't like I didn't hold my own all day or wasn't fast. So, all that stuff kind of mentally is really good for a young driver. And it kind of just crazy how long that win went for, because it felt like 6 months of media stuff, especially with Holden and how big that is for that team. It kind of felt never ending. That we were off doing another media appearance with the Brock Trophy, myself and Garth. But yeah, it's definitely what cemented me into supercars. Well, maybe not cemented. Still had to do some hurdles to get there in the end, but made everyone stand up and I guess take notice that I could drive, and the risk that HRT and Garth took to put me in it was worth it.
Yep. So you did another season in Dunlop Series in 2012, and then you made the transition to Carrera Cup instead of doing another season in Super 2. So, and you were really successful there. Well, what led to go down the path of the Carrera Cup? And I guess, given the seat time that you had, can you expand on some of the elements of what driving the Porsche and that series has as a crossover for, say, the main game?
Yeah, so we did Super 2 at the end. I think it was me, Chaz and McLaughlin in a crazy battle for the championship. It came down to the last race at Homebush, and there's a bit to that year because the Bathurst in 2012 were in a very good spot to win again, and I crashed going down to the Dipper. So that struck against my name, and then I polled the last round of Super 2, got off the start leading, and then crashed on the opening lap, and all I had to do was really keep on the black stuff, and it was a fair shot at winning it because the car was a bit of a jet. So there's another cross, and then actually borderline lost my drive with walk control. It was a bit weird. There was that era where felt like every man and his dog got a shot at running HRT or managing HRT.
Yep.
And yeah, so they said, we're not going to run the Super 2 program. This is pretty late. This is like February in 2013, or end of Jan. And then they said, and by the way, you won't be driving in HRT again. We're going to loan you out to Tony D'Alberto. And I was like, okay. Yep. Okay, that's fine, but what am I meant to do for the year? And it was a bit like, well, nothing with our help kind of thing. But I was still contracted, which made it all a bit awkward.
Yep.
Got a multi-year deal going on. So then, I remember picking up the phone to Dad and saying, what the hell do we do? And he's like, well, why don't we ring Mark Rundle at BRM and see if we can get into Porsche. We'll find out what the go is to run a Porsche. And thankfully, Mark was obviously really keen. We have a really good relationship with BRM and still do. And I don't know how, against the odds, managed to find a car. Peter Hill, who owns a few Cup cars, I think he owned Globe, like the shoe brand, just the skaters out there.
Yep.
He owned a Cup car and managed to lease it off him, and we did about 3/4 of a test day at Winton a week and a half before the Adelaide 500, and then rocked up in the Porsche. And for whatever reason, I think subconsciously I knew I had to do some special things that year to make sure I got into the main game. It's a bit of an odd one to go from Porsche to the main game. And then, like you kind of said, had an unbelievable year. I think I broke nearly every single qualifying lap record, won the most races, and the only reason I didn't win the championship was we did the right thing and put new drive shafts in the car for the Oz Grand Prix, and it actually broke a drive shaft. So that actually cost us the championship. So we had an amazing year, and there was actually a little bit of political going in the background with the engineers at Walk Control at the time versus the management, because I think it was at round 3 I polled it again and won, and there was a comment made to management saying, it's weird that we don't have that bloke in our car. And then why is he not in the HRT car? And then I ended up did a co-driver session at D'Alberto's, and I'll get back to the driving style thing. This story is a bit odd. But did co-driver session at D'Alberto's in Townsville.
Yep.
And I had not driven a supercar since November the year before, and now we're mid-year the following year. And topped the co-driver session. And I'll be honest, it would never have worked driving Tony. I love Tony, but he is so short. He could reach the pedals. I literally couldn't turn. I couldn't use all the lock I needed at the hairpin at Townsville, because my knee was, I was just so wedged. So I literally came in and I got dragged straight into HRT truck, and they wanted to know all about the Dab Auto car, and I was like, it's a bit weird, because they were a customer of Walkinshaws, and then, Monday morning phone call, oh, you're back in the red car. Like, right. So that was average on all parts for Tony and his family and all that, but then I guess the driving style question of Cup car to Supercar, there is not a lot similar. They're like a big go-kart, the Cup car, because they've these amazing Michelin tyres with plenty of grip, rear engine, so they have crazy amounts of traction. And yeah, it's the only car ever I've left foot braked. I just jumped in it, and for whatever reason, on the first lap, I just decided I'm going to left foot brake this car. And that was what actually made me quicker than everyone that year. It's because I would trail brake the car a long way, and nearly like what you'd do in the wet in a go-kart, I would have throttle and brake crossover. There's no front aero in a Porsche. There's no weight in the front. So I would be still holding 50 psi brake pressure through the apex, but at 100% throttle. And that's where my speed came. So yeah, I drove it nearly complete opposite of the way I drove a supercar. There was no crossover. It was just by chance I, for some reason, decided to left foot brake. I guess I knew it was the most important year of my life and did whatever I had to do to be fast and win. So, not a whole lot of driving style crossover. So when I got back in a supercar the following year, it was a very big eye-opener. I was like, whoa, got to stop this thing, got to square off the exit and do all the other stuff that we have to do in a, overpowered car with under-tired.
Yeah. And really that was what got you back into the main game eventually as well, and you've been there ever since. I know we've got 5 minutes left before we go to the news, and we're certainly quite conscious of your time. I wanted to fast forward all the way to this year, season 2023. New car, new technical platform. So how have you found the season so far, and what's really been some of the challenges that you've had to face adapting to the new car?
There hasn't been a lot of adapting. The driving style is very similar. The same tyre. The construction hasn't changed, so the way you drive it is very, very similar. The way you set the car up, that's definitely different. So it's been a challenge for all the teams, and I think, unfortunately for us, we've probably been fast early, but then we probably haven't developed at the same rate as others at the moment, and we're working seriously hard in the background to rectify that for Townsville. And then, from my side personally, it's just been crazy frustrating. Always happens with new cars, new rules. We see it in F1 or everything. Reliability issues, and I think this year I've had 10 mechanical issues from 15 races.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't give you a whole lot of time or chance to, get good momentum going and get good results purely because half the time, more than 75% of the time or something, the thing isn't running correctly, or if it is running, I'm out there just doing what I can with, the issues that we have. But, it's varying up and down the grid. There's other people having similar stuff, so it's just been very frustrating from a driver's side to, not feel like you can put your best foot forward. And it's no fault of the team. It's just parts that, we have to run that's all homologated now for whatever reason, deciding not to play the game on my car. So, loving the new challenge. And it sounds like the Parity thing will hopefully be sorted for Townsville. I hate talking about it, but it'd be nice to, feel like the Ford teams can rock up to a weekend and put up a good fight, which is what the sport needs. We need both of them there fighting for wins. And, hopefully the back end of the year or from now on is, smooth sailing and good results come.
Where do you see the Parity thing coming from? Like, what needs to be changed? Is it something that the Camaros need to be slowed down, or is there something that the Fords need to be sped up? Where do you see is it the same as last season with centre of gravity? What do you think is the difference there?
I think originally we had a few things going on, but the mapping or the engine mapping in the Ford was quite average, which they've tuned up a lot and made that better. Like, there was times at rounds where my car, especially, was holding over 10% throttle under brakes. So you're trying to turn it in with throttle on, and then you go to get the throttle, and there'll be a felt like a second delay, so you'd have to try and guess when to get the throttle, mid to exit. Makes it real hard.
Yeah.
And then there was that, so they tuned all that up, so it's been much improved now. And I think the engines are very close. I think the Camaro has a bit more punch. I think we have more top end, which is fine. You need different characteristics to have a race.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's follow the leader. And I think now it's just purely a bit of rear downforce on the Ford to help us match the Camaro. I don't think we should trim the Camaro because the setup wind on the Ford is way too small to get right, just because of the lack of rear grip we have. So if we make the wrong move and push the rear grip out the window, it punishes us hard.
Yep.
And I think that's not great for racing. So I think just bringing us to them, it might only be 5%, a tiny bit, just to make the window a little bit bigger, then we'll be there. It's more about tyre life. In qualifying, we can do the lap because our car's real free. Got heaps of front grip, which you love in a supercar, and we can do the lap. But in the race trim, we just tear the tyres off them compared to the other guys. So, it's a work in progress, and it's hard for supercars just to dump a heap of rear downforce on us or peel it off them. You need proper calculations. You can't just guess because that doesn't help anyone either. So, sounds like we'll have something for Townsville, hopefully.
Yeah, and all I can say to the fans that are listening and that would listen to this particular show is be patient. Don't smash the category. Don't smash the drivers. Don't smash the teams. It's a completely new formula, as per se. Just hang in there and let everything play out. No one wants to have a one-sided affair either, even at the top brass of the sport.
Yeah, 100%. Like, people, even my stat of, there's 10 failures in 15 races. No one knows that stuff. So there's a lot going on up and down pit lanes. So we're all trying to make the show better and as good as we can. So, we're all race fans at heart. We're no different to the guys sitting on the couch. I used to race you, Lee. Like, we all just love racing. We're no different. We're just very lucky we get to steer them.
Yeah. Speaking of steer, we've got to steer off into the news. Nick Percat, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And we might even catch up at the Bend in late August.
Sounds good.
Yeah. We'll have to hit you up and maybe continue with the discussion later on in the show. But we'll leave you to it, mate. We're very appreciative of your time. Thank you so much, and best of luck for the rest of the year.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
See you, mate. Nick Percat, everyone. And, God, you could have one of those discussions where you could probably talk for maybe double the time. There's so much there to uncover and so much that we actually skipped. So maybe we have to do a part 2 with Nick. We are off to the news, and when we come back, we will start talking Formula One. Welcome back to Negative Camber, the Motorsport Show, proudly brought to you by True Steel Frames. It's 8:05. We hope you enjoyed that chat with Nick Percat. And that could have gone for probably another 3/4 of an hour to an hour, I reckon, if I had the opportunity to bypass the news. But unfortunately, we're hard up the time.
That's part of our interviews. They do tend to get the most out of the guests, and maybe we just, like you said, we'll have to catch up with him at the Bend and get some more info out of him and recap the year later in the year with him as well. Maybe become another regular, kind of like Todd.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And it's interesting how when you hear it from the driver's standpoint, that they're just saying it's rear downforce, everything else is Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
And he's had a horror run. When you realise that, because they don't publicise it, he doesn't talk about it. When you realise how many, 60-70% of his races this year has had mechanical.
Yeah, 70% of his races he's been out with a mechanical failure or something of the same sort. So you don't read that in the and if he's just got that story, then you don't know how many other teams are having something similar as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got, when you sort of look at that, and then you listen to or read the press that come out and say his drive's under question because he can't match it with Chaz. Well, when you've got that sort of mechanical error rate, of course you're not going to match it with Chaz.
Yeah, of course.
Give the guy a break. Don't kill his career. Find out the actual facts first before you actually start spouting out things.
Lap times don't mean nothing when you've only got half a car.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Bruce Stewart from the team principals openly come out and said that qualifying has been the team's biggest challenge.
Yeah.
And when you're at Hidden Valley and they're both right at the very back of the grid because the cars, they just can't get any pace out of it in qualifying. Well, especially when you've got a short sprint race, well, guess what? You're going to be hard up pressed getting results.
Yeah, exactly right.
But hopefully they get the aerodynamics right for the Mustang, because the back end of the season's pretty much all the longer format races. You've got the Townsville 500, you've got the Sandown 500, you've got the Bathurst 1000. Gold
Adelaide
Coast.
500.
Yep, Adelaide 500. So they need to, the back end of the season, they have to get it right, because if these cars are burning tyres up at those sorts of places, it's not good.
It's not going to look pretty, but there's lots of work on happening in the background, so fingers crossed we've got some news on what the parity changes might be heading into Townsville, probably by the time the next show comes, I think.
Yeah, and the thing I find fascinating is the problems that the teams, in particular the Ford camp, have had with the Coyote motor, in particular because, Rob Herod, who was commissioned to build all of the V8 supercar engines for the Ford teams, he was running Dick Johnson power plants last year, and those things were not slow in a straight line. So to then get and have those problems with drivability, etc. as well, considering that they had 12 months to sort of get the bugs out of that system, I've actually found it quite fascinating. Yeah. But then you're dealing with a multi-valve engine versus a pushrod, and there's things in that Ford motor that are on the road car, because it is a road engine, standard base engine, that they've had to actually tuck away to even the level playing field, well, to level the playing field with the Camaro, and clearly that's probably had the impact. Yeah, so there you go. Bit of world of supercars, and now we go into the world of Formula One.
Amazing.
Oh yeah, fascinating. Yeah. Another Max Verstappen Grand Prix win. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, well, the bird has led just as many laps now as some of the other races. So that
the bird,
yeah, the dead bird that was in the brake duct. So that was pretty exciting, because that was a new challenger that we hadn't seen before.
The bird. I forgot about the bird. Speaking of the bird, did you see what the Villeneuve family did to Charles Leclerc when he did the tribute helmet, giving him the bird initially?
I mean, you've got to have some respect and ask. And from what it sounds like, the saga was all down to not requesting the use of the helmet, and putting new all the current Ferrari Formula One team sponsors over the top of his dad's sponsors at the time. That's what the family seemed to have taken offence to, or not offence, but taken not liking to. But look, at the end of the day, Jacques Villeneuve said it was just a big surprise to see the helmet, because nobody had called the family. It's mainly his mother and sister involved, so it was just a big shock. So at least they came and saw the light, and he got to use it after FP1.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for Charles to pull that helmet, for Ferrari fans globally, that's dealing with
that's pulling on the heartstrings.
That's the holy grail. That's that, and maybe the Schumacher red helmet.
Yeah.
Even though that's kind of also linked to Mercedes as well, but the Gilles Villeneuve helmet, that's like center levels of deity there.
Yeah.
So the fact that he did that, touching tribute, especially because it's in Canada.
Yeah.
But if it is, I find it hard to believe in this modern day and in this modern age that either his advisors or Charles himself wouldn't have approached the family and said, "Hey, I'm going to do this tribute. Are you okay with that?"
No, again, it could have just wanted to be a big surprise. Being in Canada, you think of the emotions if you didn't know about that, but the licensing. When something has a license behind it, obviously you've got to be mindful of that, and maybe there was just a misunderstanding of what exactly was involved in the license, and maybe a bit of miscommunication, or that sort of landed Charles in some hot water there. Yeah,
and he wouldn't be sort of the person that would want to rock the boat though. That's not his style.
No, well, that's why he stopped using it as well. Yeah. He was quite happy to take it off, but wanted to have those conversations as well. Yeah.
Needless to say, I don't think you'll see any replicas made of that particular helmet on eBay or sick lids or something like that anytime soon. So, yes. Anyway, let's do some highlights of the Canadian Grand Prix, which is at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal.
Canadian Grand Prix is go! Max Verstappen's got a good start, so is Lewis Hamilton, straight up to second position, past Fernando Alonso he goes. Watch Ocon trying to improve as well now. Can he get to the inside of the Haas? Verstappen, then Hamilton, Russell trying to outdrag Fernando Alonso, who's fighting the car as he gets on the power. This will be close for third place as we go into turn 3. Alonso loses a position. It is Verstappen, then Hamilton, then Alonso. Will they all fight their way through? It's a position gain for Ocon. He did make it up to 5th place.
Perez in the thick of it as well in the midfield on those hard tyres, but the gainer there is Hamilton. Hamilton got great traction off the line on his mediums and just got the drive down the inside of Alonso. There was nothing the Spaniard could do about Lewis Hamilton getting to second place, and he did well actually to keep Russell back. Ferrari and a Red Bull, that's Sainz and Perez.
Sainz trying to go around the outside. Does he have the room? Oh, it's a miracle he made that corner, but he went over the curb, and that gives the place back to Sergio Perez. Still they go wheel to wheel. Better traction off the corner. Oh, and into the wall. Into the wall goes Magnussen, who has to rejoin, and he finds himself dropping down. Doesn't look to be damaged, but he's lost a place to the home favourite. And this was the move for Carlos Sainz, trying to improve past, and he did get past the Red Bull, as avoiding action taken by the Haas of Kevin Magnussen.
Stop the car, park next to Marshall Post, critical message.
Logan Sargent out of the Grand Prix.
We see the move from Piastri on Hulkenberg. I love a bit of that.
Nice move from the Australian rookie to the inside, and the crowd loved it. Oh, George Russell has hit the barrier. There's front wing further back down the racetrack, and Russell, in this gaggle of the top four, has made contact with the wall on the exit of 9.
Got a right rear puncture. He's obviously got the front wing hanging off. He might be able to get that round to the pits, and there's a safety car as well now.
So Verstappen, Hamilton, Alonso in the pits for the stops. Let's just check it's the same order. Pressure on the crews here. That's why they practice all the time. Hamilton was tight ahead of Alonso. Alonso hand off the steering wheel. So he goes into 8. We're heading to 9 now. This is the moment. He's over the curb.
Yeah, he launched it over the curb, unsettled the rear end, and then lost the car and was pitched rear smack into the wall. I'd be amazed if he's not done the suspension there as well.
Oh, it's tight. It's on the limit.
Caution. You're just ahead.
Back up with stop, guys.
I think that'll be all right.
That's okay.
I have to brake on the pit. You had to brake there, yeah, it looked pretty dangerous to me.
This is going to be Lando Norris backing it up, and he's building a gap, because at that stage of the race, his teammate was ahead of him, and he dropped back too far. Norris given that 5-second penalty. This is going to be on board with Lando Norris. We're heading down to turn 10. It's the hairpin. Is he just going to launch one? Look at this from miles back to take the place from his teammate. And is that a problem for Bottas? Either way, he can't keep the place. We're dueling in the background as well. Albon had a run. Off the road goes Oscar Piastri. He rejoins correctly, but his momentum will be slowed. And there's an opportunity now. There's a place gain for Alexander Albon, who's up to 11th.
Okay, Kev, we need to drop a place back behind Ocon. We need to drop back behind Ocon. So safety car, hit lane, exit, infringement.
Okay. So that message, first of all to Bottas, then to Magnussen, and a positions regained for Esteban Ocon, sorted out nicely by the teams, and the two drivers who had to let Ocon through, and suddenly Bottas absolutely torches past the Haas.
Yeah, that was a good opportunistic move then from Bottas. He's going to have to defend into the next corner. They're all really, really close and bunched up now. On board with Norris, looking at the pair of them in the McLaren. There's on much better tyres. Around the outside.
Does he have the room? Oh, that's magnificent from Lando Norris, all the way around the outside of the Haas of Kevin Magnussen. Now, this is one of the best opportunities he's had all race long. Does he dive to the inside? Fernando Alonso fights his way through, gets past Lewis Hamilton and takes second place, but it's not done yet, and he knows it. He's looking in the left-hand mirror because Hamilton's trying to retake it. The two old masters wheel to wheel, and Alonso takes second place. Here's Nick De Vries. Here's Nick De Vries with the pass to the inside. Can he get it slowed down? Oh, they're close to banging wheels. Does that open the door for George Russell to fight his way by? And after a tough moment earlier on, Magnussen and De Vries still going at it. Lock up and contact again. They're banging wheels in both corners, and how do they get out of this one? Yellow flag is out in the first sector of the racetrack after two wheel banging moments in a couple of corners.
So then De Vries goes to the inside, and then it's just quite rude from De Vries trying to usher K-Mag wide at turn 2. So dirty on the inside line, they just couldn't get the car stopped. K-Mag then couldn't turn in because there was an AlphaTauri there, and look, he just has to turn out in the end.
Sergio Perez trying to rescue another Sunday for the third race in a row, but at this track you can overtake, and he's proving it once again. It's a pass for Sergio Perez.
Classic mirror for some classic Albon defending. You got the straight line speed.
That's a nice cheer for Alex Albon. They know what he can do at Williams. He's had some decent points finishes from getting his elbows out and just defending as hard as he can.
Oh, Russell in the Mercedes finds himself being passed by the gaggle of cars. And what's the issue for the British driver?
So we think we're going to have to retire this car. Front left brake wear is too high.
Out of them, late lunge, really late lunge for Lando Norris, who's done it again. Does he have the momentum to take the place? Oh, Norris is so late on the brakes into the hairpin, but Valtteri Bottas will try to fight back. Finally, someone is able to force a move in this battle. Upper place for the moment goes Norris to P9, wheel to wheel into the final chicane, but it's Norris later on the brakes. It's Norris going through, and that's a fine way to get past.
I almost knocked myself out on that curve.
You know he's relaxed when he's laughing about this moment over the curb.
The rear wing is loose on the Alpine. It's going to fall off at some point. I think it's pretty dangerous. Understood, we're on it.
Now that is looser than you'd want on the rear of the car. What that is from Lando Norris is an appeal to get the black and orange flag being waved at the Alpine, but that is an unusual sight. For Red Bull, though, a journey that began in 2005 will see a crowning moment in 2023. Max Verstappen wins the Canadian Grand Prix to give Red Bull their 100th victory in Formula One. And now it's Mercedes, Williams, McLaren and Ferrari, members of the 100 Victory Club. Alonso has come home in second place. Hamilton completes the podium in P3. But it's wheel to wheel all the way to the end. The McLaren and the Alpine, will they have any room? Norris bails out of it, and what a defensive drive from Alexander Albon, who gets his best finish of the season and just his second point scoring result. Over the line we go, and Lance Stroll finds his way past Valtteri Bottas over the line. They'll both be in the points though. Stroll P9 at the end. And Verstappen with an enormous lead in the World Championship now. As he matches Ayrton Senna's win total today, he chases his championship total by the end of the year.
And there you have it, the Canadian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen first, Fernando Alonso second, Lewis Hamilton third, Charles Leclerc fourth, Carlos Sainz fifth, Sergio Perez sixth, Alex Albon seventh, Esteban Ocon eighth, Lance Stroll ninth, and Valtteri Bottas in 10th. So, talking points. Well, Max equals Ayrton Senna for 41 wins and won the 100th Grand Prix win for Red Bull, making them the 5th most successful team in Formula One. So, top 5 as it currently stands, Ferrari with 242, McLaren with 183, Mercedes with 125 and Williams on 114 are actually now within reach. Mm-hmm. And it won't take long, I'd probably say maybe by the season's end, that they'll certainly clear Williams and they'll probably be really pushing Mercedes for third spot.
Yeah, I think by next year they're probably going to be looking at Mercedes as the target. Still a long way between Ferrari and McLaren though, so yeah, they're just too dominant at the moment, and even with a dead bird stuck in the duct of the car, Max can still cruise to a 10-second victory.
The fact that he sits alongside Ayrton breaks my heart. It really does. Like I mean, I know records are meant to be broken, etc., but he's not in the same class as the god.
He's got more races to do it in as well. So
doesn't have a 5 or 6 speed manual gearbox to work with.
No. But different strokes for different folks, you know.
Didn't have to race against Prost or Mansell or Pico.
To race against Hamilton and the star of Vettel and Raikkonen and all the rest of them, Alonso. So he's still knocked off a few people, but Perez is not showing any sign of improvement.
No.
His form has absolutely slumped, and it doesn't look like it's improving anytime soon.
Well, do the skeptics in us start to question whether Red Bull have started to turn the wick in terms of favouritism with that team, or has Sergio literally just dropped his bundle, the likes that we have? Because, I mean, the first portion of his season versus probably the last quarter of this season, and then you go through the last quarter, is such a stark contrast in his driving performance.
This is Perez.
As well.
This is Perez 101.
Yeah.
Like you watch, he was an absolute jet in Force India when he first came into Sauber. He was an absolute jet in Sauber when he came into the sport. Gets thrown into McLaren in his second year, and then absolutely poos the bed. The pressure absolutely got to him. And now it's happening again. He's had all the pressure released from him, and he was going great guns in Force India, and he's not had the pressure of being the world champion or even a chance of, even last year. And this year it was, okay, I might actually stand a chance here. And as soon as that pressure started to mount, he's got inside of his own head. Now, like, it'd be a different thing if it wasn't, like, if he wasn't fast enough on occasion. But then you would say, yeah, they're giving him a half a car. You know, they want Max to win. But the fact of the matter is, most of this is now becoming driving errors. It's not mechanical breakdowns. It's not, you know, he's not slow, because in the race, when he just has to do the best to recover, he's doing okay. But yeah, he's just not making good driving decisions in that qualifying.
Yeah, and makes Max look more godlike than what he supposedly is. So it was good to see Hamilton and Alonso going toe-to-toe. Clearly Mercedes now have made some large gains with that revision to the car, because earlier in the season that was nowhere near, you know, Alonso would have been travelling by himself.
Yeah.
So that's been good, and I would probably hasten to say that that's probably going to be the pattern now for the following races, because no one's going to catch Max.
No. But like we've seen that the Mercedes is normally good on the slower speed corners. It's when we get to medium to high speed tracks where it seems to struggle. Same with the Ferrari. Ferrari's good on low speed stuff, and it's got a good straight line speed, but when you're looking for that ultimate downforce through the middle of the high speed and medium speed corners, that's where the Red Bull really takes off. So it'll be interesting to see if the Mercedes stays as close to the fight as it is at the moment, or has been for the last couple of races, when we move into some more of those medium to high speed circuits.
Yeah, absolutely. George Russell, I mean, you put George Russell aside, I mean, he had a shocker in Canada for sure. And but him aside, Mercedes now are clearly buoyed by what they see.
Yeah,
you know,
and even he's buoyed by it as well. Like he had a shocker, but at least he was pushing to go hard. And where does he finish if he doesn't strike the wall?
Yeah,
you know, he would have easily been up there in sort of the 4th or 5th position as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, if Mercedes continue to do their rate of development like what they did last year on the flawed W13, it would be very interesting to see what the second half of this year is going to look like, because clearly you can see where the budget overspend with Red Bull went into last year, because you can see this year's car, but they've got their wind tunnel restrictions now. At some point that's got to engage, I think. They're saying in the latter half of the year.
Yeah.
I don't think the gap's going to be closed that significant.
But it also has an effect into next year as well, right? So if Red Bull use their allotment, which has been reduced, of wind tunnel hours earlier in the season to keep the development of the car going, then obviously there's going to be a bigger swing towards the end of the year when Mercedes and Aston Martin and all that have their extra allotment of time. But with such an advantage at the moment, I don't see Red Bull having to be chewing up their wind tunnel testing time. So is it actually going to have as much of an impact as we're all hoping? It's going to be interesting to see that play out over the course of the remaining rounds.
Right now, at evidence, I'd say no. I would say even if they ran a slightly revised version of this year's car next year, like a B spec, it would still probably be the dominant car.
Well, the Aston Martin have come out and said, though, that they're on their simulations that they're seeing, that they're expecting with their upgrades that are coming, that their car will be on par with Red Bull within the next 4 rounds. So they've got high hopes as well. They're seeing something in the data that we're not seeing. They're not saying where they're making those gains or how they're seeing that they're going to catch up to Red Bull. They're just letting us know that, they think that within the next few rounds that their car is going to be on par with that of the Red Bull. So whether the bird had anything to do with the deficit only being 10 seconds instead of 20 seconds, who knows? But yeah, Max definitely didn't drive away to a 20 or 30 second win in Canada, which is promising for all of us.
I'll give you the bird. No, you know what? The reason why Aston Martin's starting to find some gains now is they've got half of the Red Bull drawing office from last year.
I think they're still trying to get they're trying to get Adrian to come across still, but I think his future's sealed.
Salvation, Lee. You know why? We nailed a strategy.
Yep.
Ferrari nailed the strategy.
In a race you did, yes.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Imagine if you listen to your drivers and when they ask to go on slicks, instead of telling them, no, it's too much risk, like, let's listen to the person behind the steering wheel that's telling us what we should do.
Who would have thought, huh?
Who would have thought?
Listen to the person behind the wheel.
Yep.
You know, God. It'd be like me sitting on... Imagine if you had radio telemetry and go-karting and I was actually your engineer and I'm in the pits and I'm saying, "Nah, Lee, mate, you're not driving fast enough. You've got more grip," and you're out on track and I'm just watching on one bend of the circuit.
Yeah. Then I probably would have taken my earplugs out.
Probably.
Yeah.
Although I probably would have gone the full... I would have been that whole Cole Trickle and his engineer relationship.
Ice cream, yeah.
Days of Thunder, yeah, exactly. I'll just tell you to hit the pace car.
You've hit every other damn thing out there. You may as well better be perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Here's me, my way.
Fred Vasseur saying that in qualifying, Leclerc didn't appreciate the global picture of the situation, and if he'd gone out on slicks and went off without an Inter's banker time, he'd have started even lower. But I think Fred needs to take off his glasses and see the other side of the global picture, that if they'd gone out and started on pole, then it probably would have even been a better look.
Well, I think Fred sounds like he's just come from the UN. The global picture of the situation. My God.
It's a pandemic.
I was going to say, he's got GPS or something on that.
There's a pandemic on Charles's qualifying performances.
Pandemic, all right. Alex Albon, great performance from Williams, but their updates for that track anyway was great. Yeah, because even Logan didn't have too bad a gig either. Really.
Absolutely. Until he ended up not finishing, but they've made a bit of a gain, especially for Canada. But they seem to do this. They seem to come and go very quickly. He's had a points finish earlier in the season. Albon has, but they just need to be more consistent. And I think James Vowles came out and said that it's 20 years of underinvestment is why they are where they are today, noting that some of the hardware and facilities have not been touched in as long, with one particular example coming from software and system used to track component designs where they were considerably outdated, resulting in designed parts falling into something of a black hole. So they'd have parts that were designed, meant to be fitted on the car, and then lose track of where they had been, or where they'd gone, what they were putting them on the track for, on the car for. And so that is going to be a huge struggle for Williams now to come back from that, given the cost cap in place, which makes you think, like, if there's money in this team willing to be spent to get it to go to the top, why let the facilities improvement be part of that, like that cost cap? Like, Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, they can all improve their facilities as well. But there's got to be a bigger cap, like, on where the facilities can be at their most technologically advanced in the current moment that we're in. Yeah. Right? So you can't just go and dive hundreds of millions of dollars into making something more technical because the technology doesn't exist yet. So I don't know why they can't let Williams sort of go, okay, well, we're going to buy all this stuff and get it reduced from our cost cap to make the sport more competitive.
I just find it fascinating how a team of that nature and that and that stature firstly survived by the sounds of it, but then to be in such a, James Vowles has come from Mercedes. He's gone to Williams, and can you imagine walking into that office? He would have been like, blimey, what on God's name have I walked into?
It'd be like he was gone to from Mercedes into a world championship winning go-kart team almost, like
AKC.
It's 20 years. Can you think of what the sport was doing in 2003? And
right in the heart of the Schumacher era.
Yeah, and how far advanced it is now. Like, and to think that some of the systems, the key systems of running that race team, are still running an Apple iMac or something.
Oh my God! So that would, if you think about it, that's like Juan Montoya, Mark Webber, Ralf Schumacher era. Yep. So we're talking like Williams, BMW.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow's just being G-rated. I was about to drop the F-bomb on that one. Norris, unsporting for slowing into pit entry to avoid Piastri's double stack under the safety car. Well, clearly it was unsporting.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
Look, I don't know if it was deserved of maybe so much, maybe a reprimand, but to have lost so many spots because of it. Yeah, I don't. But how many spots does he lose if he doesn't and he has to double stack? Yeah, it's a hard one, and I guess like the stewards have got to put that hard and fast line in the sand, and if you're on the wrong side of it, you've got to cop the consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. We better head off to a break, otherwise we're going to cop the consequences too. So when we come back, we will probably go for a trip around the world.
Listening to Negative Camber, sponsored by True Steel Frames, providing steel frames and roof trusses for any size projects. truesteelframes.com.au.
Welcome back to Negative Camber, the Motorsport Show, proudly brought to you by True Steel Frames. Hopefully you're all enjoying the show tonight. Final half an hour, Harry.
We're gone
flying.
fast.
My God.
We're not even going to get through all of the things that we had planned to tonight.
Oh, time flies when you're having fun, hey? But
absolutely.
when you've got a Bathurst 1000 winner on you and you're having a chat to that's
you got to make
cool.
the most of it.
I was so jelly of him, man. Like, I seriously, he lives my dream.
Yeah.
You know, first time out, Team Red, bang, win.
Very lucky boy. Very, very lucky.
Anyway.
Like he touched on as well. Very lucky to even win the race, and yeah, now he's just got to keep making the most of it.
A couple of cans were thrown at that TV screen when Mark Scaife got second. I'll tell you now.
I bet.
I was. All right. How about you give us a trip around the world, hey?
A bit light on the overseas racing front this fortnight. We'll start with the NASCARs like we always do. One race in the NASCAR Cup Series, another road course race being held in Californian wine country at the famed Sonoma Raceway. The race saw 6 different leaders and 10 lead changes, with just 2 caution periods being registered. Martin Truex came out on top after cutting through the traffic, who stayed out on old tyres after a late race caution due to a day-ending crash from Denny Hamlin. Hamlin had earlier won the first stage of the race, with Kyle Busch taking the second stage. Truex's win has now taken him into the lead of the regular series points, ahead of William Byron. The championship is now in Nashville this weekend before its debut on the streets of Chicago next weekend in a race that will see the likes of Jenson Button and Shane Van Gisbergen line up on the grid. In the Xfinity race held at Sonoma, it was Aric Almirola who came out on top, ahead of AJ Allmendinger and Kyle Larson. Moving across to IndyCar, Alex Palou has extended his lead at the top of the standings in the NTTT IndyCar Championship with a 5-second win over Joseph Newgarden at the Soncio Grand Prix of Road America. It was a tense affair with plenty of chaos in the practice sessions ahead of the race. Palou himself had quite a hefty crash in FP1, and Will Power and Scott Dixon got together in an FP2 after an unfortunate incident involving Romain Grosjean. Power later hit out saying, "This track's terrible when you go off. They do a terrible job here. They need to pick up their game. Anywhere you go off, you almost break your back every time. I've done it a couple of times this weekend, so they need a kick in the butt for this place. Just peed about what Dixon did this morning. Just ruined our whole weekend. It was a terrible move, and Grosjean is a piece of crap. If you saw what he did in practice, he needs a punch in the face." I think Will Power just needs to get on with the driving.
Wow.
Scott McLaughlin was classified 8th after recovering from an 18th place grid position, with Power ending up finishing in 13th. World of Outlaws news, and Brad Sweet has regained the lead in the NOS Energy Sprint Car Series. That was until this morning, after a scary incident for Carson Macedo saw his car flip and burst into flames during an event in Knoxville. The crash did not deter Macedo from getting back behind the steering wheel though, and he has not dropped around despite burns to his body. Sweet did lead the championship by 10 points at time of writing these notes, but David Gravel won the race this morning, so he's just taken over the lead after Sweet finished 9th. Australia's James McFadden, who won Friday night's event at Hussett's Speedway, sits in 14th spot, around 1,400 points off the lead, having missed 4 race starts. And in Formula E, with only 5 races remaining in the 22-23 Formula E season, it is Pascal Wehrlein who leads the championship. It is a battle that is going to go down to the wire, though, with Jake Dennis only 1 point away in second spot and Nick Cassidy only a further 5 points adrift in third. With races left in Portland, Rome and London, none of the 3 drivers can afford to let off the pedal. Jake Dennis has been a man on the move in the last 2 rounds. He has finished no lower than third in the 4 races. this has seen him claw his way back into title contention. And in the same time space, Wehrlein has only recorded one top 5 finish. So everything to play for there. If you do have Stan TV, you can log in and see the rest of the Formula E Championship. But that wraps up our Around the World segment this week.
Well done, Mr. Harrison. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. I've got a question for you.
Okay.
So, what does a gynecologist do?
Hang on.
What does
do we need an intro for this?
No. What does a gynecologist do? What does a gynecologist do when they're deaf?
Oh, I do not know.
They read lips.
Oh, dear. Oh boy! Oh, but that needed a content warning, and we needed an intro for that, so people could be aware to turn. See, after the negative feedback you received on last fortnight's episode, you've decided just to throw jokes in randomly, so people can't turn the volume down at the end of the show.
Just mixing it up and doing something a little bit different.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Can I give you one more?
If you feel like it's absolutely necessary.
Why is there no pregnant Barbie? Because Ken didn't come in the box.
PG. We needed PG. The next step of this program is to work out the dump button.
You dump.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah, I see where we're going. Okay.
From there, we go to MotoGP.
Nice. Nice segue.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
The Pecco Show, Lee.
Yeah.
The Pecco Show.
He didn't fall off for one race. That's amazing.
You know what was so great?
Same can't be said for Marc Marquez.
Oh, we'll touch on that in a minute. But nothing warmed to the cockles of my heart more that I've got Le Mans, and literally as Bagnaia is crossing the finish line to win the race, Ferrari win Le Mans. Euphoria.
Yeah.
Euphoria. It was amazing.
Did you scream? Did you let out a sound? Like if I messaged Bianca, would she say that you woke the family up with screaming like a little girl?
Well, not quite, because I keep snorting. Was it? No, she was in the other room and the kids were asleep. Mm-hmm. But so basically what it was me jumping off the couch, running on the spot with my mouth going like that, and my hands waving and all that. So doing my best Aretha Franklin.
I think you've forgotten that we're recording this show, so that's going up.
There you go. There's a meme for you. But that was pretty much what it was. And then the first thing I thought of was expletive you.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I was just boom. And then you saw, what was it, the next day? It was like all messages about Ferrari and all that sort of stuff.
I did mute your conversation the next day. I actually
That's
think
like your wife muting my calls.
Yeah, welcome to the club. Really, you know it's bad when her dad rings you and says, "I've been trying to get in touch with Shay. Like, have you spoken to her? Like, I've tried ringing her a few times and she hasn't called me back." Yeah, that's when you know it's getting tough. if her own dad can't get in contact with her, like, she would normally halt date night if her dad calls to pick it up. So if he can't get in touch, then something's going on.
Maybe you should disguise your number as dad on the phone.
Yeah, change it to private number or something, like, change it to a call number from Sydney or something. Maybe she'll pick up, think it's someone.
Disguise your name as Intuit or something like Lars. Okay. We should get back on track, metaphorically speaking. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll cover the Mugello results, and then we will do the Sachsenring, because that was the following week in the German Grand Prix. So, my boy, Pecco, he was first, and then, Jorge Martin, 1-2, Lee. My God. And then Johann Zarco third, Luca Marini fourth, Brad Binder fifth, Alexia Spargaro sixth, Jack Miller seventh, Marco Bezzecchi in eighth, Ennio Bastianini in ninth, and Franco Morbidelli rounding out the top 10. So, we then go to the Sachsenring, and these are the highlights of the Sachsenring, and then we will cover the results shortly after that.
Lights out, full throttle, and we are underway.
Luca Marini got a good launch on that Mini VR46 Ducati, but it's Jack Miller again who just rockets away on that factory KTM. He's got the inside line, he hugs that tight line as well. Miller will lead as they drop down the hill going through the Amiga section. Bagnaia squeezed Marini out wide. He takes second place. Miller just can't get that KTM hooked up coming through turns 10 and 11. He led going into turn 11 on this opening lap, but he's been pushed all the way back down to fourth place. There comes Martin then. He's going to hit the front for the first time. Just as he made the move here on Bagnaia and Miller in the sprint yesterday. Turn 12 is his favourite overtaking off spot. And now Martin picks up the baton. He leads here at the Saxon Ring, about to complete lap 3.
Pecco Bagnaia already halfway around this lap has fallen half a second adrift of Jorge Martin. It's turning into a similar story from the sprint. Bagnaia at the moment does not have the pace to go with Jorge Martin.
Binder on the inside of Jack Miller, sliding that KTM down the hill in that third gear, turn number 12.
Binder feels as if he's got podium pace here. If he can get through Marini quickly, he might well be able to latch on to the leading pair. We ride on board with Binder down the hill through the Ralph Baldwin curve, and look how it closes in on Marini. Binder up to the inside. He's not allowing Marini to turn in. Binder able to get to the apex first, and the South African is up into the podium positions.
Yellow flags are out in sections. Binder's gone down. Brad Binder, you can see his name tumbling down the timing screens. Oh, that's a big one, isn't it? Oh, he looks really, really groggy. He looks really, really groggy, doesn't he, there? He'd be getting a standing 8 count if he was in a boxing ring right now with Brad Binder. So, slipping through the grasp of the South African.
This is coming through turn 9, isn't he? He's already wide there, and he just has to dump it in the gravel trap.
Martin versus Bagnaia for the win. Bagnaia dropping down through the 5th gear, 6th gear to there. Here he comes. He's lined this one up, and Bagnaia decides this is the crunch time. This is his moment in this German Grand Prix. For the first time then, he hits the front, the world champion in P1. Side by side, aren't they, in the braking zone for turn number 12? Well, we've got our answer. Jorge Martin then back at the front. This is where Pecco Bagnaia took the lead at the end of lap 21. Couple of laps later though, and Martin says, well, you can have some payback. Here we go then, Martin versus Bagnaia.
Martin is quicker. Bagnaia getting into a good position now to line up Martin. He's going to have a good run onto the straight.
They touch coming through the final corner. Front tyre on rear tyre for Bagnaia and Martin, and that could be key. That could be the decisive moment. Pecco Bagnaia, contact there with Martin going into turn number 13. Martin on the inside line, coming up to down this final corner, turn number 13. He goes defensive, and surely Jorge Martin has got this one covered. Although here comes Pecco Bagnaia trying to pick up some drive grip. They come on line side by side. Oh, inches in it. How close was that? But it's Jorge Martin who takes a Saxon Ring stunner. Absolutely incredible late drama here in the German Grand Prix. Martin takes the win by just 0.06 of a second. It is the dream double in Germany for the Martinator. What a race that was.
And there you have it. Just give me a little bit of pause there, just for a bit of
dramatic effect.
The dramatic effect. Yeah. We'll edit that out when we do it on Spotify. So, my boys again, but flipped around. Jorge Martin first, Bagnaia second, Johann Zarco third, Marco Bezzecchi fourth, Luca Marini fifth, Jack Miller sixth, Alex Marquez seventh, Ennio Bastianini in eighth, Fabio Di Gianantonio in ninth, and Miguel Oliveira in 10th position. So talking points between those two races. Firstly, if you're on a Ducati, you're loving life. Secondly, if you're on a KTM, you're loving life for maybe about 3 laps, and then you find yourself drifting off backwards. If you're riding a Honda and you're Marc Marquez, you'd probably want to be taking out life insurance if you haven't already, or maybe upgrading it to the highest potential.
Yeah. Well, they probably wouldn't actually underwrite that at the moment, given the nature.
7 times in the space of a week, he's had crashes.
And going to the Saxon Ring on a Honda, that would have been an event that he had circled in his calendar as, I am going to show the world what I can do on this bike that is a nothing bike. Considering he's won there 11 times before in MotoGP competitions. So the fact that the best that he could do was an 11th in the sprint race, that's saying something. And the fact that he had 5 falls that one weekend in particular and had to withdraw from the race, that says how much of a pile that bike is at the moment.
Yeah. But you know what, though? It's not just bike too. I mean, he's done some, to be blunt, some really stupid SH''T. I missed one there on purpose just for G-rating purposes.
Effect.
Yeah. But he's done some really stupid stuff
Yeah.
on the bike, in particular drafting riders, you know, and they haven't got any rear vision mirrors. It's not a road bike. They're not going to see it. I mean, the collision that he had with Bastianini yesterday was just stupid.
Yeah, and he did the same with Marini
at
Saxon
Sachsenring.
Yeah,
just dumb.
Yeah, but look, that just shows that his devotion is there, and even despite the bike being an absolute pile, he is still giving 155%, trying to drag every last little skerrick out of this thing. But yeah, no, I agree. I think he should be taken out, or hoping that his life insurance is in check, because at the moment he's doing more damage to himself than he is doing to MotoGP. So.
You know what it reminds me of? Remember, and I completely agree with you 100%, but you remember how Jorge Lorenzo, when he was in his final year of Yamaha, he was having the same sort of stuff. He was just crashing and crashing and crashing, and his body was being held together by maybe fishing wire. So, you know, bush mechanics, medical style. And, you know, and then he's obviously gone on to Ducati and sort of revived his career, and then said, no, calling it quits. Yeah. And it was only really then that Ducati really started to hit their straps. But, you know, this is absurd. I've never seen anything like it, you know. But at the same token, it's also, to me, it's also showing that, yep, you know, the attitude in terms of out-and-out racer, but at what point do you draw the line on common sense and actually just try and finish the damn race?
Yeah.
You know?
And, constantly tearing the bike up, that costs money. It hurts you, and, you're not actually finishing the race to work out what's wrong with the bike. I know you've probably got a fair idea by now, but even again, like this weekend at Assen, he's not racing tonight because of his fractured rib or whatever, but... Yeah, so like, where to from here? Does he see out the rest of his contract? I think he's signed until the end of next year. So does he see that out? Like, he's probably got the most insane buyout clause. So if someone like a Ducati or Yamaha do want to get him on their bike, they're going to have to pay a hefty sum to Honda. But maybe is it the best option?
I think right now the best option would be that Alberto Puig, who's the manager of Team
HRC,
Repsol, gets a massive pair of kahunas, walks that into Marc Marquez's part of the garage, and actually say, Mark, for the love of Christ, I don't care if you're 1 second off the pace, finish the race.
Yeah.
Because that comes down to rider intelligence for me. And the best comparison piece is, you could say Casey Stone, even though I thought he was overrated. But Valentino Rossi on the Ducati, which was a pig of a thing, but he barely dropped it.
Yeah.
Was he winning races and stuff? Occasionally he'd make an appearance on the podium or whatever, but he was still finishing races and they were still trying to develop it, and you barely saw him drop it.
Yeah.
Whereas Marc Marquez, it's a guarantee now. If you go into sports bet, not that we advocate betting, but...
Gamble responsibly.
But you'd almost put a wager down and say, greater than 5.
Yeah.
Which is absurd.
Yeah, it's almost like betting on a soccer match.
Yeah, exactly right.
How many times is Marquez going to fall off?
Bet greater than 5. Yeah. Guaranteed. Anyway, the Pecco show rolls on, as of course, but Jorge Martin has now come up as a serious title contender.
Yeah, he is hitting form at the right time of the year. Yeah, and again, like taking the sprint and Grand Prix double at Sachsenring. It was the first Grand Prix that he's won since Austria. I think it was called the Styrian Grand Prix, though, in 2021, in the COVID year. But yeah, a second place finish at Mugello. Absolutely hitting some strides.
He'd be hitting some ladies too. He's a pretty good looking rooster. I saw him on the podium. I thought, my God, this guy's got a jaw of the gods.
Are you going to send some text messages about him to my wife?
No,
she's already got enough back catalogue already.
I wasn't going to go down that path. No way. I'm not going to get in trouble. She does that herself.
Yeah. But it comes down to the fact that he's now got the 2023 spec bike. He was on the 2022 spec bike. He's now been given the 2023 spec bike, and it's coming to play for him. Like he said that some of the outbraking moves that he done at the Sachsenring to get the job done, he would not have been able to pull off on that 2022 bike.
Yeah, look, the bike is clearly exceptional, but again, rider intelligence. In my opinion, because last year, how many times was he binning it? You know, he went through that spate of, it was 6, 7, 8 races or whatever it was, and just dropping. Whereas this year, you know, he's riding like a champion.
Yeah.
You know, now obviously the bike is good, but still, you got to keep it upright.
Absolutely.
You know, and there's many others there that can't do that. So, but Zeki's not out of that title race either.
No,
you know, with
100%.
VR46. I mean, I think they're riding
with the amount of times that your Bagnaia falls off. No one's out of the championship.
Did you know? I went to the shops today, and I haven't bought an energy drink for a very long time, but I bought myself a pack of the Pecco Spec Monster energy drinks, which are the standard cans of Monster, the black and green, but it's Pecco Spec. Such is my obsession with the man.
Are you going to actually drink them, or are you just going to put them in the cupboard and look at them?
They're in the fridge. I'll probably look at the cupboard and look at them, because it's been a while since I've had one. But, yeah, Pecco Spec.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bought Valentino Rossi can once and the Lewis Hamilton one once too. I kept them for a while as like mementos, cleaned them up, put them in the cupboard and stuff. I reckon they were pretty cool. The Rossi Mossa can was pretty cool.
Lots of people keep cans and stuff as mementos. I'm a bit more of a, you know, tabard and lanyard collector myself, but yeah, no.
I tell you, actually, speaking of which, when I was going through my archives, I was talking about Nick Percat, Bathurst 1998 ticket, the 1000 ticket that I had. I found it.
There you go.
And it was had a little bit of, you know, it was old school paper. They had like, so the ink was still there. You could still read it. It's fading. Still in the lanyard from that race.
There you go.
I nearly died, Lee. Oh my God, I had it. So, I don't know how much it's worth. Probably nothing.
$1.
To me, yeah, probably. But to me, it was
priceless.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But that's it. That's MotoGP. Tonight's Assen.
Yep.
And sprint race last night was won by Mr. Bezzecchi.
Yep.
Followed by Bagnaia. And then third place changed about half a dozen times.
Yeah, on the last lap, and then Binder lost it because of riding off the track. So.
Which, mind you, if you saw the replay,
it was very, very tight. Very, very tight.
Like even the crowd saw the replay and they booed.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So then Quattararo got third.
Yeah.
But he wasn't happy with that podium. You know, he was very, I don't like getting podiums like this. And it's like, mate, that's probably the only podium you're going to get.
For at least this year. Yeah,
just take it.
Just take it.
Just take it.
Yeah.
Just take it. But yeah, that's it. That's MotoGP.
Nice.
Very nice. We've only got a few minutes left in the show. What do you want to do? Shall we just...
Now it's time for Grind My Gears with Jamie and Lee.
Well, grind your gears.
I had you back there. I could see you struggling. I was ready to go.
I was going to fire off another joke, but you know
we've got time for that too because this is.
Let's find you good. We'll grind your gears first.
Right lane hogs.
Right lane hogs.
Right lane hogs. So, like, you're driving down the expressway.
Yep.
And you've got a car in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a car a little bit further up the road in the right-hand lane. And they're not... They're clear. They're clear, but they're not 10 seconds down the road, but they're clear. So you pull out of the car that you're following in the middle lane. And the guy in front of you doesn't do anything. He just sits there in the right-hand lane when he should be... Move over to the left.
Were you driving your Golf?
I was doing speed limit, though.
I was going to say, what on earth are you doing? Drop the clutch or drop a gear, wind her up.
I don't need to get a speeding fine. We drive responsibly. We advocate for responsible road behaviour on this show. And then, look, they're just... grinds my gears. It drives me up. If I was driving the Barina still, I would have been grinding gears. But
if you could get into the Barina first
of all. Right lane hogs. Just work out your life. If it's an 80 km/h road, the only reason that you should be in the right hand lane is for overtaking. Well, that's a blanket rule.
I was going to say, is that like an unwritten rule, like a gentleman's agreement?
Yeah,
that's actually road rule.
Road rule, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So get the hell out of the right-hand lane. So when I'm doing my 110 and you want to sit on 105, you can do that in the middle. But then the worst thing is, like, you pull out from one guy and you get to them and they know that you can't pass the guy in front because he's not moving over. So then they speed up a little bit and then just sit on the guy's quarter panel so that now you're stuck. You're like, man, what I would do to have a monster truck and run both of you over.
What did Rosberg think of the Golf? Was she in the car?
No, she wasn't in the car, no.
Really?
I actually took Simon for a quick squirt in it today.
Mr. Reichelt?
Yeah.
Yes.
But, not very far. So, Mum hasn't actually been in it yet.
Hasn't she?
No,
what did Mr. Reichelt think of it?
He loves it, he thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. Did it pop and crackle like,
Made it.
Yeah, it did?
Yeah.
Very good.
Straight into race mode.
My wife actually told me to get in touch with my feminine side. So I crashed the car. And then decided not to talk to her for the day.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I just restart that International Women's Day speech that you had once upon a time.
I'm waiting for the phone to ring. Here's another one for you.
Oh dear. Hang on. If you're going to crack the
right,
jokes...
do the joke.
Now it's time for Jamie's joke of the week. Let's get ready to laugh our socks off.
This is your last one, so it better be a good one.
So why do women rub their eyes when they wake up in the morning? Because they haven't got a nut to scratch.
Yeah, that's probably fair, though. They haven't got nuts to scratch. Yep. No. I do. I think that, I can be on board with that. That seems more like a fact than a joke. I mean... Anyway. Oh, you gave it yourself over there.
It's been a rough week.
We're pretty well done. That was
we're done all right.
Yeah.
We're done all right.
Back to your kitchen desk next fortnight.
It was actually my office desk, but the back in the dining room, yeah. Back to the kitchen sink.
Back to the kitchen, yeah, exactly right.
Well, mate, what a show. We're done.
Yeah,
we are done. But that was a good one. Nick was great to have. So, V8 Supercar drivers, come on down. We don't bite. And I'm sure, hopefully, Nick's an advocate. We get some massive name on board.
He's a massive name.
I know he's a massive name, but
we can build on the massive names back catalogue.
Yeah, exactly. So, mate, you got much planned for the next couple of weeks?
Work. That's
a lot of work.
Race.
Okay.
Wyala's going to be on the 9th, so I'll be steaming home from that, and you might have to ring me up on the phone to get me in, but I'll be here.
You will be here?
I'll make it here in some form or another.
Maybe I'll have to get Mr. Aston, or maybe I have to call Super Sub Mr. Biscuits.
Maybe
we'll just defer the show for a while.
Well, that too. Or hopefully the track finishes early enough and I can get here in time.
Can you do me a favour and just look after my brother for me, please?
Sure.
Just make sure that he won't have wheels falling off and everything, like the cart starts and all that sort of stuff.
Best.
Try your best. Cool. We'll try our best to get out of here.
Done.
All right. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.